All right, the time is now 6 o'clock, so I will call to order this meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jackie, roll call when you're ready.
Councilmember Ray.
Here.
Downey,
Here.
Armstrong,
Here.
Beach. Here. Jones.
Present.
All right, next up is public comment, and I have a couple sheets. So first, Brian Shear, if you'd like to come up, state your name and address for us.
Brian Pure, 110 North First Street. That's the only address you guys are getting out of me tonight. I'd just like to read a statement. I understand Robert's rules, and I know this isn't a back and forth. There may be time for discussion later on in the meeting, but this is my only opportunity at this point, so thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, Council, thank you for the time tonight. I come to you in public comment because the topic I would like to discuss is on the consent agenda, and I will not have another opportunity to address this topic before action is taken. I request that you pull the union contract approval for discussion, item H, before taking a vote. For the first time in union negotiation history at the police department, the chief of police or his designee from the department was not involved in the negotiations. I learned the details of the tentative agreement in an email from the city on January 29th. I have concerns about two additions to the union contract. I want to emphasize, I'm not looking to blow up this tentative agreement. My focus is narrow in scope, and in my opinion, both topics I am about to discuss are operational in nature, where I, as the chief of police, should have some input. The first addition is in Article 8. The new verbiage is, all employees shall attend annual mental health checks, which will be scheduled during work hours and paid for by the city. There are certain programs that you may not know. There are certain programs which you may not know about that the police department already has in place, and we are very pro mental health. The Employee Assistance Program is available to all city employees. Above and beyond the EAP, the police department has a trained peer support group. These trained officers are trained at level 1, level 2, and level 3 as we continue to improve and have the best trained peer group we can have. I've implemented a department pastor who not only is available 24/7, he meets with officers on Fridays. He makes himself available. Every officer has a department issued cell phone. On their cell phone, we have an application called Powerline. The police department, through its future budgets, will pay $4,200 a year for this application. This first year is paid for by a grant that we applied for and will receive through Warren County Philanthropic. We found this topic to be so important that we went out and received our own funding for it. This app gives every officer 24/7 access to different mental health treatment information. Live chat with the counselor to several resources are just a few of the items accessible to every officer. On top of the already mentioned, February 26th, 27th, and 28th, 2025, the Indianola Police Department is hosting a resiliency class. The class is based on mental health for the officers. Lastly, the police department does debriefings on all major incidents. Along with the fire department, I might add sometimes. I will come back to Powerline at the end of this. For these mentioned reasons, I find it unnecessary to add an additional unfunded mandate to the department. Although the verbiage states during work hours, unless this checking can be provided at 1 a.m., this will be an impossibility as our officers work at different times of the day and night. My assumption is that during work hours was written in that way to prevent overtime. Another impossibility, as we must backfill those hours when an officer is at their check-in appointment. At a time where all departments have been asked to cut costs out of their budgets, I can't see how this mandate will not add $7,000 to $10,000 a year with appointment costs, overtime, and mileage. With everything that we have in place for mental health and the budget times we are in, I see this once-a-year check-in as unnecessary and wasteful spending. The second addition to the union contract I would like to discuss is under Article 13, training. The new verbiage reads, If training ends early, the employee must use accrued time, leave time, personnel, vacation, or comp for the difference between the end of training and the end of the scheduled shift. This practice, while not specific to training, is covered in many other sections of the union contract and the management guide. Both employees and IPD management understand that there has to be 100% accountability for hours worked. Adding additional rules onto a practice that already is taking place does not foster a trust within either the employee or IPD management. I want to go back to Power Wellness for a second. I had a discussion with one council member up here today about our application. The application, when you log in, does allow for a check-in, a mental health assessment. And you can do that check-in 365 days a year if you want, or twice on Sundays. We already have this that we pay for through the application. Please consider pulling this item from the consent agenda and give staff direction on resolving these issues if you deem necessary. Thank you for your consideration.
Thanks. The second form that I have received is from Mary Melville. I don't believe she was gonna be here tonight. So. Address is 606 East Ashland. The comment is there are trees that were planted years ago on the easement areas between the streets and the sidewalks, which are technically on city property. The trees are now taller, the roots are taking up space and disrupting the sidewalks. Shouldn't the city help with the cost of sidewalk repair and or rerouting sidewalks to accommodate the trees to help homeowners handle the cost of maintaining trees? Everybody should have that comment as well. Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to come up for public comment that's not on the agenda tonight?
I have a question. So my dogs, I believe, are on the agenda tonight. Will I be given a moment to speak then? Okay,
Yep, yeah, we'll have a public hearing on that, and that's when you can come up and talk for that.
thank
All right. Next up would be the consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be pulled from the consent agenda?
Item H, please.
Okay, item H. Anything else? If not, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item H. I need a second.
Removed.
Second.
Anything high level, Wade, that you like to cover on that?
There's a couple of rezonings. One is for a veterinary clinic parking lot. I think that's going from ag to commercial. The second one, Bill Matee and I worked through the initial rounds of a PUD, which stands for Planned Urban Development. It's kind of like give and take zoning, for lack of a better word. They talk to us about certain things that like setbacks, maybe that they're not able to meet, and we look at other design considerations that can maybe mitigate that. So there's a bit of a back and forth, and he and I are working through that, and we'll have that ready for the planning commission and then ready for the subsequent hearing. On the approval of applications, those pay apps are pretty straightforward. AP discussed there was a little nuance with them that they were that this was work that was completed and that they were late in submitting the pay app. So if you're wondering why there's a bit of a delay there, AP could elaborate on it, but it's straightforward. The others are just second or third readings. You've already removed item H. Regarding everything Emerald Bay, I will say that I have been working with Nathan and that the development agreement, I believe the ball is in Jesse's court, and we continue.
All right. There's no questions, Jack.
I just have one question. Wade, on the development agreement for South K Street, are those properties that came along after the construction? Would you know the answer to that?
I just know that these are properties that aren't like fully developed or
Right.
fully platted.
Right.
And so there's like it's like 20 or 30%
Right.
of the normal assessment. And that's kind of what I learned in staff meetings.
I think Dave's here to jump.
Sure, those development agreements are for large lot, single family homes.
Those are ag land, is that correct? Did I read that right?
One was ag land, but most of them are just large lot.
Okay,
So that at such point, if it were to develop into 4 lots, then the rest of the assessment would come due. So it's a deferment. Development.
because you only take a portion of the area, right? If I'm remembering correctly.
It's not a taking.
No, I know that. You assess only, yeah, right. Okay. Pardon my word there. It should have been assessed. So thank you. Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions? Not Jackie?
Councilmember Armstrong?
Aye.
Beach? Aye. Jones?
Aye.
Richardson?
All right.
Dave?
Aye.
Dolly?
All right, item H. Dallas, can we have discussion on item H before doing any kind of motion?
I think you can.
Okay. So I will open it up for discussion on item H before we have any kind of motion. Kind of maybe addressing some of the questions that were raised tonight, so I'll turn it over to you guys on discussion.
Courtney here.
If she's on the phone call.
Okay. On this, Courtney, I know we previously discussed the mental health eval. Would having them do that through the app pose potential for this whole negotiation be thrown out, or?
Good evening, Pro Tem and Mayor or members of council. This is Courtney Silliman, HR. I would have to defer to legal on that because this particular article was to go to an actual provider.
So I guess it bounces to you.
I think this means you have to have further discussion on it, and if it's already gonna be pulled from the agenda, council who helped negotiate that agreement would be best suited to respond to how it would affect the rest of the agreement if that part was removed.
Is that something, Brian, that you would be willing to do as just part of a management requirement rather than a?
Absolutely. If it was through the application and both the city and the union agreed to it. And that would save us an incredible amount of money during this time. And I believe it would accomplish the same goal. That I would make it mandatory once a year. They would have to sign off on it.
If we pull this tonight, Courtney, is this gonna set us back? Or cause any issues with going forward?
We will have to draft a new TA and both parties will again have to agree. So to answer your question, yes, it could delay, but I don't know by how much.
That would be my proposal is that, you know, we take it back. Now that we know this information about the app, it would have been nice to have that information previously when we were discussing things.
So we would just change the wording in here. We still want to require it. We're just requiring it a different way.
Mhm.
Are we requiring it or is it optional?
It's a requirement, how it's written
Requirement.
right now.
But how we're meeting it is through an app that we're already paying for. And we're taking out the element of going to a provider and paying for additional time and travel time.
Yes. Travel time, mileage, overtime, cost for the therapist to meet with 24 officers or however many union members, we have 15. That would all go away. The requirement would be fulfilled through the check-in through the app, which the officers would sign off on. That they have done it.
And you have access to that, or Courtney has access to
I
that.
have access to the app, the same as everyone else, but I do not have access to check on them we have to have some level of trust if they sign their name on it. I mean, if they lie, you get fired. So, you know, that's just how it is. You cannot lie as a police officer.
This isn't a hill I'm willing to die on. So I mean, if you think that's okay, that's fine by me, but I just know from online training versus in-person training, it's a whole lot different, right? I mean, I can just click through the buttons. Say I've done my business ethics course at work or something versus getting one-on-one training. I mean, are you comfortable with, I mean, if you're comfortable with your officer's mental health, just by clicking through some buttons, I guess, I mean, you're the police chief here, Brian, but it is different.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's different. Our culture at the police department is very pro mental health, and it's not just coming from me. We have officers who are really engaged in different mental health things. They wanted to go to the level 1, level 2, level 3 training to bring it back to the other officers. 24 of us, we take care of each other. I mean, that's just the culture we have here. So I would feel comfortable that they say if they're answering the questions, that they're answering the questions.
I got a question on Article 13, if we can move on.
Do I need to make a motion or anything since we pulled it, or?
You have a question on Article 13, you said?
Yeah. So, and if their training ends early, can they come back and work the remaining part of their shift?
Yes.
I'm not sure why taking this out hurts anything. I mean, I don't understand why it needs pulled.
I don't think I can comment on that in public due to some pending things.
And that's the reason, I know what you're speaking of, and that's the reason I thought that it was probably put in here, right? So, I thought that was probably our safety net, but.
It's already a practice we do.
Is it documented somewhere then?
We have, Captain, would you like to speak to this? We have, dozens of years of schedules that show documentation about training and time off given for training. It's documented for years and years and years and years. Yes.
Not to mention in the employee management guide, it dictates how time is taken by employees at quarter hour increments. So it's a duplication, if you will, of already existing policy. In our opinion.
So I'm gonna ask legal, is it a problem to have it duplicated?
If the attorney who negotiated that has that in there, I'm gonna say it's for a reason. Without being a part of that, I don't want to say that it was just put in there for no reason. But I didn't negotiate this deal, so I don't feel comfortable commenting to say that it's unnecessary to be in there if it was negotiated.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions?
No, my only comment is that, when I sat in on the negotiations 3 years ago, Brian was part of that and offered some pretty integral points during that discussion, and I'm not sure why he was not included this time. But I think we need to make sure that as management of his own department, I think that makes some sense as well. And because we could have avoided a lot of the issues had he been there, I think, in that part of that process. And I think it's just important that when you do these kinds of things, that you do have management as well as you're dealing with the folks across the table on the union side. So I'm a little disappointed that didn't happen, and understand that going forward, I think we just all need to make sure that happens.
That's a challenge, right? We're now kind of coming in with a snapshot and don't have context. So, I mean, challenging to speak on some of these and understand how it got to where it got. My understanding that we're all in agreement on sending it back for Article 8 to get some clarification. We could ask for clarification on 13 as well. for more context, and maybe it resolves itself at that table, or then we at least have context for why we are where we are.
And we,
Cause I don't know either.
I mean, I'm not trying to pass the buck, but I'm uncomfortable, agreeing to something when our police chief is up here. Maybe there are awful points he's making, but I don't know. We don't know enough to know, right?
I think we just need to go back and sit down at the table again and figure out why this is and we're negotiators and say, listen, we need to get some context for where we are.
Is there a motion that like to be made?
Well, let me ask legal here, if we don't act on this tonight, then still go back, or do we have to actually tell them to go back to the table and figure it out?
I think that legal and Matt can take a look at this and determine if it's something that can be just presented back to the council, or if it's something that does need to go back to the negotiating table.
Well, if we make a motion, then it will for sure go back. Is that correct?
Yes.
I would make a motion that we send it back and have them look at Article 8 and Article 13.
I'll second.
Councilmember Ray.
Aye.
Dalby.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Stones.
Aye.
Richardson.
All right.
All right, next up is public consideration in new business. We have discussion and direction regarding the cleanup event at the Brush facility. And Caleb, I believe you have some information that you want to talk about.
I think I got everything.
Yep. Thanks for your time. So what I presented for you is what we talked a little bit about during the budget meeting. Is the raise of rates for the Brush facility, which the rates have for bags and bundles has not raised since 2015. And it's only $1 more for each one of them than it was in 2005. Our expenses have raised considerably of handling that material, getting rid of that material since that in the last 20 years. But what we would have is opening date of April 23rd, closing date of November 23rd. If we have some nice weather like we did this year again, extra week in the first week of December. The closing for the holidays. Curbside cleanup would be the 21st through the 25th of April. Fall cleanup at the facility would be the 18th of October for bulk electronic hazardous waste and appliances. And there would, you have any questions?
So right now, we normally accept appliances during the spring cleanup too.
We would not have a spring cleanup, right? The proposal. We would have the curbside cleanup. No spring drop off. At the Brush facility, we would only have a drop off at the Brush facility in the fall. Would eliminate a large cost on the city to cover the cleanup in the fall, spring.
I talked to AP already, Caleb, but the closed, you need to add Veterans Day on there?
I didn't add Veterans Day this year because it's on a Tuesday, away from last day. So
Okay, so
all the holidays I have up there are either on a day that it's opened or one day away from. So I didn't do Veterans Day. I'm more than willing to add it on for Sunday if that's what you guys would like.
I just,
But Veterans Day is on a Tuesday.
It isn't open.
Yeah, it's on a Tuesday this year, so I did every holiday was either on the day of or one day away. But like I said, more than willing to add it on as a holiday for that Sunday beforehand. That's what you guys would choose to have happen.
I'd rather have it open. I just want to make sure we were accounting.
Yep, I did look through the calendar.
Okay.
Didn't want to miss any, but
You think that the fees that you've got here will cover your costs?
so I did some math from the 2024 season. So in fees, we brought in $20,874 in fees for the 2024 season. With the increase in the fees rate that I've recommended, we would have brought in $32,241. With not having the free yard waste drop off in the spring and the fall, I could easily see that number going, possibly getting close to $40,000. Which we will start covering. Coming closer to covering our cost without having to do a lot of transfers from other.
That was beneficial in your budget presentation too, so I appreciate that and evaluating it. Other questions for Caleb? If nothing, I would take a first and second motion for a resolution approving the brush facility services for 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Jackie?
Councilmember Armstrong,
Aye.
Beach,
Aye.
Stones,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Ray,
Aye.
Dalby.
Aye. Okay, next up on the agenda is vicious dogs. We will do a hearing in accordance with chapter 56, section 56.05 of the City of Indianola Code concerning seizure, impoundment, and disposition of vicious animals. I would need a first and second motion to open the hearing. So move.
Second.
Becky?
Councilmember Dalby,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beach,
Aye.
Stones,
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Ray,
Aye. Okay, we are now in the public hearing. I know you are here to speak as the dog owner. I will, you can just come up and state your name and address.
Also had some letters from Nathan Rasco with Kayakota. My name's Tor Poindexter. My address is 610 Brookwood Drive, and this is Caitlin Ripperger. We are the owners of the dogs in question. The event occurred on January 13th. My female dog was in heat at the moment and they were tied together. She slipped her collar and they both were allowed to be free. They were noticed by the police and they were trying to help catch them. And doing so, they jumped the fence, I believe, and were in a backyard and got into a fight with another dog. The lady whose dog did get bit was Wanda. I forget her name, and I'm making amends to her. I'm paying her vet bills. Essentially, from that point, I've reconfigured all of their tie-out situation. They now have non-slip collars and chains. I have set them up to be spayed and neutered. A male dog has never been aggressive before. That's essentially what I want to speak on. I'm okay. The female dog, if you have to go that, if there's nothing I can do to keep them from being destroyed, it is going to really break my heart if I lose my dog Marco. I take him to work with me every day. He's a great dog. He spends time at the retirement home with the old folks. I have a letter from Nathan even with Kayakota discussing how he's never seen any aggression out of him. I'm willing to do anything to keep my dog. I plan to install a roller system on the fence by the middle of March. That I'll have that done. I'll have the funds and be able to do that work. And I believe having her spayed would stop the territorial and the running situation.
When they get out, they normally don't run. It's when they're together. And that Great Dane had been out and in our neighborhood that whole week. So there have been people all over our neighborhood setting up live traps for this dog. So our dogs have been agitated all week. And then she slipped the collar on, being on heat also. It didn't help the situation. We do love our dogs and our kids love our dogs and they've never bit nobody.
I mean, I've prepared video of Marco in his natural setting at the retirement home. If there, I wish I knew more about this setup and I could display that. I have the letter here I'd like to read from Nate Rasco with Kayakota Humane Society. Over the years, Kayakota Humane Society has had interactions with Tor Poindexter and his dogs. I can tell you that we used to get calls on them quite often. But over the past year or so, Tor has done a much better job of keeping his dogs contained. I do not recall a single incident for well over a year until Monday, January 13th. On the morning of Monday, January 13th, out of coincidence, I happened to be at Tor's house and interacted with one of his dogs. That's what Caitlin was speaking on, is they were trying to catch a loose dog in the neighborhood and I was letting them set a live trap in our yard to catch this other
Great
dog.
Dane dog.
Yep, that had been running around. So he was just there. And like she said, it was a lot of action around the house, so the dogs were worked up. He was very friendly and calm and obeyed Tor when he gave him commands. In every interaction I have had with Tor's dogs, I never saw any aggression. In my opinion, the answer here is that Tor keeps his dogs contained. He has been doing much better and understands why they got loose on the 13th. From my understanding, that issue has been resolved, which is the non-slip collars. The reason I didn't have those on the dogs before is because they run an issue of choking themselves if they jump a fence. But with what happened, I accept that that's catch-22 and I can't, they have the non-slip collars now and chains, which I've read will prevent them from slipping it. From my understanding, that issue has been resolved. From what I understand, Tor is going to upgrade his fence as well, so the dogs cannot get out. After talking to and interacting with Tor, it is obvious to me that his dogs mean the world to him. It appears that he understands the severity of the situation and will do everything he can to keep his dogs contained. And I do understand the severity of the situation. I understand that the people whose yards the dogs came in and had conflict with theirs, they don't deserve that, and something does need to change. And that is why I'm okay. If we have to split my dog, I don't feel Sheba deserves to die, to be put down for a bite. She didn't kill another dog. But I do understand splitting them up so this doesn't happen again. To lose Marco would be, he's damn near a service dog. I mean, seriously, when he's here, he's in the parking lot, I could bring him in, show you guys that how well he listens and is well behaved. This was just a
Freak
bad
incident.
situation. They're being, the cops are doing their job. They're trying to catch the dogs. I appreciate that. That way they don't get hit by, all of that. But it was a bad agitated situation. It's heartbroken. I'll do anything. Where I'm at. Is there any possible way for me to show the video of Marco and how well he's trained? I have my laptop. I could set it up very easily. Okay,
Council's okay with that?
thank you. I even brought the chains to show. Is there an HDMI port? Gotcha.
I got one for you, Tor.
Get the other side of your computer. Sorry, it's short.
This is Marco at I'm the director of maintenance for the retirement home in Carlisle. I have 3 buildings that I take care of. And they just love him to death. He comes to work almost every day. This day that our other facility in Fleur, so that's what I have.
Jason might be able to help you.
Not all the time. Yeah.
Sorry, Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's okay.
Thank you. I mean, I appreciate you weighing on me. This wasn't busy.
Sorry.
Lightly taking treats from the residents. He's so good. I mean, just the whole thing blew me away. I never seen anything aggressive out of him. I really do believe it was because she was in heat. She was agitated like this, territorial.
Was he the dog that bit the other dogs or was? she-
We're not quite sure what dog did what, but it was both.
When I
of them.
spoke with Wanda, she said it was the husky looking dog, and that is the female. Everybody sees him as a German Shepherd when they see him. She even, I never collected a letter from her, but she said she would be willing to state that she doesn't want. She's happy that I'm making amends for it and she just doesn't want it to happen again, but wouldn't want the dogs to be destroyed. Here he is getting out of the truck off leash with me. And how he comes back to me perfectly when I ask him to. He's here. I almost feel like I should have brought him in. I was thinking this was at the courthouse on the center of the square, so I didn't bring him in. He's got 8 commands down: sit, stay, load, place, shake, roll over. I mean, he's like my best friend. He is. I mean, he's a son. That's the way to put it. And he's like their mascot there at work. I've got 15 letters from them, but I know that won't really mean anything to you guys. But I do understand something has to change. I mean, I understand why we're here.
How do you handle it if one of the residents? I know this isn't pertaining really to the issue at hand here, but how do you handle if one of the residents are dog averse, if they are not really liking dogs much?
Before I ever took him in there, I've talked to all of them first before, yeah. There's a couple staff members that aren't the biggest fans of dogs, and they've actually started petting him more and more. There's an African American lady that didn't really like dogs at all, but now, I mean, I also have another dog named Lily that comes to work with me a lot, a little female, and she just adores Lily. But she's not in question for this. And he has a few residents that he'll just go sit in their room. I thought this was Kathy's hall here, and I mean, they treat him like their dog. Just heartbroken. This is Sheba. This is the female. She's amazing in the house.
She loves our baby.
There's no aggression in them there, but I understand outside of, when they were in that situation.
The information that was sent to us, there were actually 3 addresses listed.
Yes, only one dog was bit though. In the paperwork here, it says that 3 dogs were bit. And that was another thing, per the section, it says it would be multiple incidents on 2 separate occasions within a 12-month period. This was one time that they got out, and they were in these 3 different yards in this one time. So it is being counted as multiple incidents, but I don't know, I didn't know if there was.
Yeah, the only one
little-
lady was the only one that took the dog to the vet. The other ones never contacted us, never took
There
their
was
dog to the
contact
vet.
made, it was like a
No.
bat, but the dogs never were bit,
No, it was just the one lady.
and I'm paying her vet bills.
Brian, do you have anything to offer on that?
I'm gonna let,
When
community
they're
service
done,
officer.
staff will come up.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Am I correct in that there was only the one dog with
There was 3 dogs that had wounds.
they had wounds?
They'll come up when you're done.
I was led to.
The first time the dogs have got loose.
No, the white one and the male have gotten loose, like Nate was saying, but they've never done anything like that. Literally, the male, the one Marco, the one that I'm advocating for so much, he goes up to people and they call me with his name tag when he's been loose. He just walks right up and they're able to
Call us.
call us off the number.
Yep.
And I feel wrong, like I'm selling Sheba out, but it's the truth. She is the dog. I mean, and that's. Hate that this
What
happened.
was the reason for them getting out so often?
They were slipping their collars. We had those adjustable, we have the one actually.
She had a fabric collar on rather than a chain collar.
And
I have now.
their necks are bigger than their heads, so it just slips right off when they get pulled up,
And it hadn't happened for a long time.
Time.
She had Bible study that day, and so normally I only put one dog out at a time to avoid this. Because if it's easier for her to handle them while I'm at work. She puts one dog out. She had them all out this day, and that tie out, we had ran through a loop and they were tied out on both
Both
ends of
ends.
the same tie out. So
so
when she
slipped, they were
her
both.
collar,
free.
it allowed him to walk off with the tie out from the other side, which was still attached to him.
We got the chains, the no slip chain.
And
We
heavy
replaced
weighted
these,
chain
yeah.
instead of cable, and and it does work. The weight of the chain pulls the slip down, so there's no way for them to get out of
And
it.
that's the Kayakota bird us.
Yeah, Nathan, explained to me to buy those and set that setup. I plan to also have a privacy fence would be 2027 is my goal there, but before then, there's a roller system that it has, so you take a piece of PVC and you fix it on both sides with a larger piece of PVC behind it. I have a picture of it even, and then when the dog goes to jump the fence to get out, it rolls backwards. And that I can have done by next week, if that would satisfy the court.
We got them, appointments for them to get fixed.
And spayed, yep.
It's fake. So we do think a lot of it had to do because she was and being chased through the yards.
So your yard is fenced in now?
Yes, they're able to jump.
Jump over
that
the
Chain
fence.
link.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a standard chain link fence. I don't believe it's allowed for me to just add fabric to it or anything. I've been told that the city code or whatever doesn't want that when I
So
spoke.
we have to come up with the money to.
For a true privacy fence,
Yeah.
but before then I can install the roller system. I do believe that is allowed from what I've read. I can have done next week. Open, anything. Any suggestions? Barco's just, he's a beautiful dog. And I don't believe he should be destroyed. He's never done anything like this. Appreciate your guys' time. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I can read my report for you if you'd like, or just cover the major portions of it. You guys,
But the report was in the packet, correct?
that
Yeah,
should be.
Okay, so yeah, I've already read the report, but
Want to hit the highlights, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I responded out there to locate the dogs once I got the call. Initially, I couldn't find them anywhere on the streets. Met with the reporting party. She advised two dogs had jumped her fence, cause she has a chain link fence as well, and had attacked two of her dogs that she had in her backyard. So, I went to search for the dogs further. I did end up finding them on, I believe it was North T. And they were running at large, just kind of galloping around. At one point, I did observe them go up to a residence where they had a dog sitting on their front porch, and they did go up and try to attack them. I yelled at them and they scurried away without actually attacking that dog. And then I proceeded to get further calls from other residents in the area. One person who lived on T Court, he advised that his dog was bitten as well, but he did not want to seek medical treatment for the dog. But I did observe the wounds on that. And then the reporting party also had one dog that had a scratch on it, and she did not want to go for medical treatment for the dog either. So 3 separate incidents, same time period, but 3 different residences. So that's kind of how we classified that as 3 bites within that 12-month period for the code. And then obviously the 3rd victim was on U Street, where she did seek her dog to get a vet assistance for the wounds on that animal.
Were you able to observe any of the actual biting that took place and observing which dog for sure it was? I mean, you've got statements from people. Did they say, if I remember right, did they not? They said husky, I believe, if I read that correctly. Is that what your understanding is? The same dog was the one that did most of the biting?
I don't know if the victims were actually able to determine which dog bit their dogs. I know that the reporting party, Sandy, he said that both dogs had attacked her 2 dogs that she had in her yard. And then all the victims also had fenced in yards as well that were chain link. So they were able to hop all their fences as well. Their dogs were on their own residences inside the fence. I don't know if you're gonna need to speak on this or not, but we do have 6 other reported incidents of the dogs at large within the last 2 years. So, I mean, it's not within that 6 months, but we did have one report where they had killed a pet rabbit group, and another incident where it had killed 2 cats.
When was the incident where they killed 2 cats?
Just 1 second, I'll just find that report. I put them all.
This pet rabbit?
Yeah, like pet rabbits in their yard or something. Let me find that one. That would be, you want the case number or do you want to read the report? The date? It'd have been January 20, I'm sorry. It would have been December 8th of 2023.
Is that- Or were they all the same time?
The two cats were killed at the same time. Yeah, it was the same owner. Yeah, belonged to one owner.
Both dogs were loose at that time as well, or just the one?
I believe it had just been one dog and they described it as a German Shepherd looking dog.
And then what about the rabbits?
It's possible that one was for the 2-year period. I don't think I printed that one off.
I can,
Let's put that one.
the incident with the cats was a dog that it was a dog named Diesel that we don't have anymore. It's one of the dogs, we got rid of that dog around the same time. We got rid of her pit bull. Well, I'm the same owner, so I understand.
Any other questions for Kevin? No other questions for him? Anybody else from staff? Kevin? Just you? Or-
Yeah, just me.
Okay. All right, since we are in a public hearing, I will need a first and second motion to exit the public hearing.
Ask a
Oh,
question of
yeah,
legal.
go ahead.
Council, I just want to make sure that we're interpreting the 3 separate bites on one day. Does meet that?
I don't see anything in your code that says it has to be on different days. It says 2 separate occasions and 1 yard and then another yard a little while later. To me, you could say that's 2 separate occasions. I don't think that the code necessarily is crystal clear on that, so if you wanted to say that was 1 occasion, somebody might agree with that interpretation, but nothing about this says it needs to be on 2 separate days or hours apart.
Do we have our discussion right now or?
No, after, well, we'll do that after.
On the table.
Well,
You got a motion on the table to adjourn the public hearing, correct?
no,
No.
nope, Josh asked if he could ask a question. I saw Captain Hawkins maybe raised his hand for,
Yeah, I just want to speak to that just from a practical standpoint. Time and space separate incidents. So if a dog moves from one yard to another, the location, the space, if you will, has changed, so therefore it's another incident. Think of it like when we take multiple car burglaries in one night, sometimes somebody will go out and burglarize like 17 different cars. Those are 17 different incidents if they're in different locations, because there's time and space that's different. So we use that to determine whether or not something is a continuous incident or something that is separated by time and space, becomes multiple incidents. So just for clarification, if you have any questions about that.
Thanks. Thanks. There. Questions?
No questions, I have
Yeah,
comments, but
we'll do that after the public hearing. I will need a first and second motion to exit the public hearing.
No.
Second. Maggie?
Councilmember Richardson.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
Dalby.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Peach.
aye.
Jones.
Hi.
Okay, we are out of the public hearing, so we'll have a consideration of the determination of vicious animals. So we will open it up for discussion before we make any motions. So Christine, I know you've already indicated that you have some like questions and discussion topics, so we'll start with you.
So the last time something similar to this came before us, I had said then that we needed to clarify what the difference was in occurrences and get that put in our code. I don't think, I have a hard time saying it's a different occurrence. I understand the true definition of that. When it comes to dealing with people. Oh, this is an animal. It got out of its yard. One was in heat. It sounds like two of the owners of the other animals aren't even willing to really press charges. There was no official charge or anything, correct, on the other two?
We issued a charge for dog at large,
Just
which,
one charge though, right? So to me, that's one instance. Watching the video with the dog, especially the male, I can't in good conscience say that I think that that dog is vicious. I really. As far as the female goes, that is also something that I brought up previously, is what if the dog is in heat and it gets out and a fight occurs? And multiple animals are involved. We can't prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the bites on those other dogs came from one of these two dogs. I've broken up dog fights before where my own dogs were biting each other in a dog fight. So. That's just kind of where I stand.
Any other comments, questions?
A difficult situation. We have a situation where these dogs have been out repeatedly. There's a history with this owner and not keeping their dogs in their own yard. They are showing a good faith effort to improve. Yes, I take into consideration that two of the owners who had situations with their own dogs chose not to press charges, so that may take us back to the one incident. I too saw the video where the dog seems very friendly and is able to go into a care facility where we have elders, and the dog's very gentle. It's a difficult situation. Yeah, we don't know which dog bit in this situation. I guess that's what I have to say.
Kevin, would there be multiple charges for dogs at large based off residence, or would it just be the one because of the they're out right now and you're getting multiple phone calls to try to clarify
So there's not an actual charge for biting another animal. I do an animal bite report, so there was 3 separate reports done for each dog bite. But as far as like a criminal charge goes, it's the dog at large is what it'd be under. I can't personally charge criminal offenses. Yeah, Captain wants to speak.
I can speak to that. Since there was 3 separate dog bite reports, we could have charged 3 running at large charges. However, because of the situation and declaring the animals vicious, we didn't want to throw more criminal charges on top of it. Therefore, we only filed 1 dog at large. We could have filed 3 counts.
Okay, thanks.
As my question, I want to make sure I was understanding it right. There was 3 incidents, but 2 owners just chose not to take their animals to the vet. To get checked out. Okay. Thank you.
I think the officers were, I think Kevin was trying to make some, and staff, police staff was trying to make some considerations here too, but it is 3 different incidents. And if we do have evidence that at least one of those, and I understand that we may not have clear and distinct evidence, but back to Melissa's point, the owners had, these dogs have been out multiple times. And to the owner's own statements that probably the female that was probably the one that was most aggressive. And I'm to the point, listen, I think part of this is too, we've got to back what our police officers through their experience and history understand. I know not too long ago, we had another one of these things come up and I thought we made the wrong decision there, but that was something that was played out differently. But I'm going to suggest and go with the fact that I think the male dog that they can keep it alive, but I do think they have to put the female down. That's my
Your official motion.
And so we can still have dialogue too, if anybody has other questions and comments. I mean,
I hear what you're saying. Richardson, I'm struggling to draw a line like that, right?
It's not an easy line to draw. I understand him.
No, and even in one and not the other, like how do you separate that at this point? You know, there is a history here, unfortunate. Enough so that Kyakota can write a letter about dogs. You know, there's detailed history back with the police department of this owner situation, unfortunately. Awful. I feel that it's awful for them. It's also awful for citizens to live in a neighborhood where there's dogs running around terrorizing other people when there's clear, be responsible, right? I hear what you're saying. Steve, I don't know. Personally, I'm struggling to say one and not the other because of a Facebook video. And I don't mean that heartless. I just mean that that's, I feel like that's asking something that is pretty clearly defined here. We're not sure who did what. We know they both were there and both. How do you do gray? I'm open to thoughts to help me not be gray.
I think, Kevin, was it in your report that didn't read that correctly, but was there something in here about, because the owners said that the lady that he's going to pay for the treatment said it was the female, I assume, is that correct, if I'm not mistaken? And do you have anything in your report, or did you get any evidence from that it was one dog versus another and at least one incident in this particular case?
That it was just one dog biting the other dog?
No, that it was the one that, it's definitely the female was the one that bit one of the dogs. I guess I'm just trying to figure out a line here to kind of draw, and I don't know if I can do that. And I agree with Councilman Rave in the sense that it's really hard here. But you actually didn't see any of the dogs bite any other dog though, is that correct?
No, I didn't physically see them do that, no.
Okay, and did one of the owners that you discussed or talked with, did any of those owners say one dog or the other bit their dogs?
Just that first initial report that the female had their 2 dogs in her backyard and the other 2 dogs jumped and came in and it was a mutual like.
Just a free for all?
Yeah, yeah. So that, yeah.
Couldn't really say who did what?
No, it was, yeah, just the 2 dogs or the 4 dogs fighting each other.
Yeah, I got you. Well, there's definitely, and Mr. Poindexter has admitted that he's made some mistakes with his dogs, but it's definitely the fact that they were able to get out multiple times, and that's an issue as well.
Can we forego putting them down if he implements the rolling fence?
I think if they get out one more, frankly, if you're gonna go down that path, I think regardless of whatever the case is, if they get out one more time, that both dogs are put down, but I struggle with not putting at least one down right now, but I don't know which one it is, and that's the problem I'm running. So.
Are we,
How you think?
you know, going forward in all, everything or followed up to this point? I mean, I hear what you're saying. We're creating a slippery slope here of asking staff and folks to be accountable for something that people haven't been accountable for up to this point. How do we enforce that?
You know, when I ran for city council, I never thought I'd be talking twice about having to put a dog down. I'd rather spend the taxpayers $1 million than have to have this conversation because it really tugs at your heartstrings quite a bit, especially when you're a dog lover. Sucks that we're put in this situation. I mean, when you're a pet owner, you have to have responsibilities, as you do in all walks of life. I don't know, it's just a tough situation that we're put in. I mean, I'm not here, I'm glad it didn't bite a human. I've walked my dog where a dog came out and bit my dog. Does go on. To balance the human aspect versus what is it? Chapter 56, you know?
I think the establishment of the facts are the dogs were out. One of the dogs, at least one or more, bit another dog in multiple occasions. If we can't establish that there was one versus the other that did the biting, then we have to assume that, to a certain extent, we have to assume it was both. Councilmember Graves' point. But listen, I'm a pet owner too, and I hate to be in their position, but again, you know, you have the responsibility of keeping the dogs in your yard or locked up or chained up, one of the two. I think we have ordinances on the books for a reason. Councilmember Alvy's point that it wasn't a human, thankfully. But who's to say next time it wouldn't be, especially if somebody's walking their own dog, in that particular case. It does tug at your heartstrings.
It really does. Yeah. I have pets myself, and we've had a situation in my neighborhood where we've had the same dogs out repeatedly, and we've had animals bitten several times and you do just wonder, what if the next time it's a kid? And it's just so unfortunate. Really tough, like. Decision, but we have these ordinances in place. I mean, this ordinance was written and strengthened for reasons just like this.
Not to sound like a jerk, but I mean, this really is poor ownership. Not the animal's fault. I don't know, I just really struggle with. I think there needs to be more accountability on the owners. I said that last time. Taking the life of an animal. Because its owner wasn't responsible. I mean, that's what it boils down to.
It's clear that it's a good dog. But hasn't been properly contained in its yard. Very unfortunate part.
Any other comments? Thoughts? If not, is there a motion anybody is wanting to make at this time?
Make a motion that we follow the recommendation of the Indianola Police Department that both animals be declared as vicious. Defined by Indianola City Ordinance 56.01 for.
Is there a question?
Sorry.
No.
No, we just had a motion and a second. So Jackie,
Councilmember Dalby,
I understand dog being your best friend. I got one that is my best friend. I would be devastated. I'm voting no. I just can't do it. I'm sorry.
Armstrong,
no.
Beach,
No.
Stones,
Oh,
Richardson,
Aye.
Ray,
Aye.
This is how it was.
What was Melissa's vote?
Melissa Bowman.
So 4-2, motion would fail on declaring the dog vicious.
Please tie those things up.
we will.
Go through this again.
This is it, guys. And if they ever come before us again, it's.
Couldn't agree with you more, Christina, even if we voted differently, if more ownership, and it sucks that we're here.
Let's move
You
on.
guys need a sec or?
No, let's
You
move on.
ready? Okay,
Go.
sorry, like. Council reports,
Thank you.
consideration of the appointment of Al Kratz to the Indianola Public Arts Commission for a term beginning immediately and ending July 1 of 2027. I'd need a first and second.
So moved.
Councilmember Stones.
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Ray, Dalby,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beach,
Aye.
Item B, consideration of the appointment of Rachel Turlop, if I said your last name incorrectly, I'm sorry. To the Indianola Public Arts Commission for a term beginning immediately and ending July 1, 2027. Second.
Moved. Second.
Councilmember Richardson,
Aye.
Ray, Dalby,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beach,
Aye.
Stones,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem, I do have, and I apologize for not getting this to Jackie, but if I could just have a moment to, on legislative policy committee from the league.
Yep, I was gonna turn it over for any other reports, so you're good.
Couple of things that, do you all get the Friday afternoon league thing that they send out that shows the play stuff in the week, or do I need to start sending that to all of you?
Based on that, I don't get it.
Okay, I'll just send it to all of you. Number of bills that are out. Stormwater bill is out. It's plugging holes in the last. I guess that's an interesting way to put it if you're talking stormwater, but they're plugging holes in some of the legislation that was attempted last year and passed. You may not remember last year's stormwater bill had significant ramifications for city governments and some costs involved, and so we need to keep track of this one as well. Senate Study Bill 1072 amends the definition of a governmental body. And it's starting, what they want to do is stop cities from having lobbyists and groups like the League of Cities, Iowa State Association of Counties, and other groups that have lobbyists that can lobby on different issues. And there are some Senate file 33 goes to full committee. It would be a mandate from the league on, or from the federal government on making sure that I'm gonna have to get some information on that. My apologies on that. There has nothing been done on the front for property taxes as of yet, but there will be some things coming. I will get that emailed out to you guys. I'll get it tonight, or tomorrow, and get it to you. So, but that policy update, if you got any questions, give me a shout. And I think Wade gets that. Did you get that as well? Okay, I'll make sure you guys get it. That's all I got.
Any other reports? I have one. I met with the Redeemer Lutheran Church on Tuesday, the 28th. Days, right? And we talked about some of the housing needs that the city has. So we went over the housing report that was done last year. They did a pretty great job of kind of digging into that report, actually. So we talked about those needs, what the city can kind of do to help those needs. Also talked about, the homeless situation that, goes on here and in other communities, and just how to even kind of wrangle that. I know they're gonna go meet with some of the county supervisors as well to kind of talk about maybe some of the things that they can do as a church or partner with other churches. But I think they'll probably still be kind of involved as, maybe some of these developments come up with, to kind of address some of those housing needs that we do have that kind of talked about earlier with, multi-family, getting apartments, those kind of things. So it was a really good productive meeting, and just wanted to report back to everybody that there's some organizations who are looking to try to help in those areas. So all I had. Mayor Pro Tem report. I have the Chris Street Day proclamation. So whereas Chris Street was born February 2nd, 1972, and graduated from Indianola High School. And whereas Chris Street was a multi-sport athlete throughout high school, his athletic ability was undeniable. He was the quarterback of the Indians football team and an all-conference baseball player. But his real passion was for the game of basketball. And whereas Chris earned a starting position on the basketball team early on in high school, gaining the attention of Tom Davis, head coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes, Chris helped lead his team to the state tournament and was named first team All-State his junior and senior seasons. And whereas Chris would go on to attend the University of Iowa, play for the Hawkeyes, where he played for Tom Davis. Chris's number 40 was retired by the University of Iowa's men's basketball team. To this day, he holds the record for the most consecutive free throws made at Iowa. And whereas on January 19th, 1993, the entire state of Iowa mourned the tragic loss of Chris after losing his life in an automobile accident. Now, therefore, I, Steve Armstrong, Mayor Pro Tem of the city of Indianola, Iowa, do hereby proclaim on what would have been his 53rd birthday, Sunday, February 2nd, 2025, as Chris Street Day in the city of Indianola, and urge citizens to celebrate Indianola's basketball legend. In the words of Tom Davis, Chris represented all that is good about the Midwest and the state of Iowa. He was open, caring, honest, loving, and lived life to the fullest every day. We want to remember everything Chris represented. He was one of the greatest Hawkeyes of all time. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and seal this 3rd day of February 2025.
You're here.
Yes. Proclamation. Thank you.
In other business, we have wage report.
That's a tough act to follow. Just go through the last week, the highlights. On Monday, January 27th, I met with Lee Adams, talked about, the development process and about, a development, a meeting that he wanted to have later in the week. Then I met with Andrew Collins of MIPA. Worked a little bit on the budget and learned it was very difficult to cut 10% from community development and administration without, getting into the personnel side of things. I spent a large chunk of the day with Chief Shear and Rob Hawkins, and really enjoyed my time with them. They showed me, all around their department, how tight they were on space. Had conversations with me about staffing studies and the challenges that they're facing. And really appreciate them taking the time to get to know me and me getting to know them a little better. Learned about Chief's 4 kids and Rob's 5. Learned about what they're like. Chief and I both have a fondness for hunting, and I know Rob is a diehard Cyclone fan and a Raiders fan. And Chief said, other than those 2 instances of really bad judgment, he enjoyed working with him. So
Is that a mutual bad judgment thing? Yeah.
So, Tuesday, of course, that Monday night, we had our work session, and, the direction was given to start moving administrative staff into the Regions Bank building. Tuesday morning, the executive leadership team met. That Tuesday, I met with Britt Sternquist and Planning Commissioner Jake Weiss, along with Bill and Tim of Community Development. And we talked about a development that he had been working through and the sprinkler requirements. And we also had a long discussion about ways we could make Indianola more developer friendly. That evening, the Planning Commission meeting was canceled or postponed due to a small or no agenda items. Wednesday, first thing I did was reschedule a meeting with Bill and Tim because we were going to go over the Summercrest Hills North PUD. Had a meeting with Kaya Koda, with Julie, Nathan, Brian, and Kathy. And they asked for an additional $167,000 above the 54 we currently give them. They did a very nice job of outlining the services they provide and the challenges they face. And there's no doubt of the value they provide the community. There's also little doubt of our ability to fully deal with their request. Worked a little bit more on our budget and possible restructuring. That afternoon, I had a very good meeting with Heather, Doug, Ron, and Steve R. And we got the 501c3 accomplished with the Wellness Club. We also had a meeting after the meeting where we talked about 28E agreements. And we plan to huddle up with Doug Fulton on Tuesday, the 18th, prior to the council meeting. And Heather has been tasked with figuring out what our ask is and modifying the 28E agreements prior to our meeting on the 18th. Then after that meeting, the meeting after the meeting, I spoke a little bit with with Doug, the park director. So Thursday, I had a meeting with David Albrecht and the City State Bank crew. Dove into the Summer Crest Hills North PUD with Tim and Bill. And then had a phone conversation with OPN and set up a meeting with them, which many of you attended on Friday. Had a lengthy developers meeting with Lee Adams and Cody and that development team. Had a very nice interview with the city manager recruitment gal, Ellen Hinker of MGT on Friday. I was unable to meet with Doug and Heather and Courtney about some of the concerns that Heather had brought up in the previous work session. But Courtney indicated that that was a productive meeting. And then in the afternoon, I toured the Regions Bank building with staff, and Ryan and OPN and Councilman Rabe and Richardson joined us. Today, we had a department head meeting, first thing, and went over tonight's agenda. Had a Highway 2 access meeting with Dave Mueller, Tim Crouch from Snyder, with AP, Bill, and Caleb. This basically talks about Highway 92, basically out by the bowling grounds and then going 2 miles east of town. And this is called an access planning meeting, which will dictate as ground develops to the east, what our access requirements on to 92 highway will be. Attended a Greater Des Moines Economic Development meeting and then prepared for the council meeting this evening. And that was my week.
Any questions for Wade?
Is the Highway 92 access, is that dictated by state policy?
Dave, you still back there? You want to field that one?
Yes, they recently went through a process where they changed their policy approach and policy directives. And actually that area of the community, they're seeking wider access spacing than currently exists. So we have some. And that's why we're going forward with the study and cooperating with the department.
They're going away from our normal 300 feet or to, what are they going to?
600.
Doubling it?
Yeah, going 600.
But is that just for that section, or is that the plan now through the entire community?
Well, that particular plan on 92 is areas that are already built up.
Right.
Is designated as that access spacing, and we think we have some convincing to do to update the policy to be a little more specific to areas in the city and the general code.
Right, and it was my understanding correct on that was kind of a unilateral decision that really didn't involve a lot of cities around Iowa, or is that?
Correct.
Yeah, so they just kind of made a decision, they're going to 600 feet instead of 300 feet, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Wade?
It's a league issue, believe me.
No other questions for Wade? We can go to discussion regarding the fiscal year 26 budget.
Yeah, I just want to give an update to the council on that. We asked staff to finish looking at their taking a second look at their budgets today. So I'll be reviewing that the rest of this week. The department heads are going to meet on Friday to review the budgets and looked at their projected fund balances, and then just discuss some citywide options that we have. Such as, every department just agrees, no travel. So things are consistent across. On February 18th, we'll have more information for you about the budget. The finance and sewer departments are going to meet with our financial advisor tomorrow to discuss the sewer fees. One thing we're going to be focusing on is that their rates should be set to cover all of their expenses, including their CIP. That kind of plays into lost funds. The lost pays for the sewer geo debt instead of us using it as part of the debt levy and collecting it through property tax revenue. We have the ability to do that, but we've chosen not to, and to use the lost funding for $1 million. Lost is also used to transfer to the sewer department for work on like the sewer lines. and also to the street department for street maintenance. And then, as you know, the loss can also be allocated for the construction of a public safety or public works facility. If we use the full amount of loss to pay for a new facility, it's going to affect the sewer department and play into what those rates should be. So they're gonna lose out on about $1.5 million if we take all of the lost funding and use it for the facility. It'll also affect the amount of street maintenance that can be accomplished each fiscal year. If we only used $1 million of lost for a public safety facility, that limits our bonding to only $15.5 million over 30 years. You'd also directed me to look at the hotel motel tax. Just a reminder, at least 50% of it can be used for repairing, operating, maintaining recreation type facilities or for tourism. And then any remaining revenues can be spent by the city for any other lawful purposes. If you'll recall, this year we budgeted $231,000. We have various recipients. Parks and Rec routinely get 25,000. Bravo and the CVB both get 2/7 of those revenues. And then we usually give it to the Opera, Balloon Classic, Main Street Fair, Des Moines Partnership, IPAC, and the Indianola Concert Association. One thing we've been discussing internally is that for FY 26, we could give it to Bravo and Greater Des Moines because we have agreements with them for 2/7 each. Bump up to Parks and Rec for 35,000 and then give it the remaining amount to Wellness Campus for their CIP since it can be this recreation building. Which I'll be exploring. Oh, yeah.
Jackie,
Mhm.
for sewer,
Mhm.
the sewer increases, sewer. Those fund, like, so whatever we increase sewer to
Mhm.
can only be used for sewer, right? So sewer CIP, sewer operations,
Sewer rates.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
so nothing else.
right.
I just want to clarify.
Do we currently give any hotel motel tax to chamber?
No, that's just out of the general fund dollars.
I think it was out of hotel motel.
It used to be.
Did
We
it?
switched it last year, or the year before.
You're right. I remember.
Yeah, it was a smaller amount out of hotel motel before.
After this next year, we'll have about 132,000. Well, I mean, we're gonna still stay with Bravo, but we'll have 66,000 approximately to allocate in different directions too. Is that correct? But will that be then July 1 of 26 that we will be free of that, or when does that, or is it the fiscal year?
Fiscal year 27.
Any other questions for Jackie at all?
Will you email that
Yeah.
presentation over to us?
Item C is discussion and direction regarding city manager recruitment schedule. I would suggest you get your calendars out as well. Wade, I don't know if you were leading this or Jackie, if you just want me to kind of go off my notes here for the city manager recruitment. Yeah.
The dates too.
I know we all got an email from Courtney. Kind of with some of the timelines for some of the meetings. So. I've got 3 different timelines here. We need to review applications. We need to do the virtual interviews and the in-person. March 12th, would that day work to go over and review the applications? Like, can we do a special meeting and do that? Are people free?
Depends on what time. I mean, I work a full-time job, so.
I know, but I'm sure. I didn't do the process last time, so I don't know when you guys reviewed applications, if it was like a 6 o'clock type meeting.
Yeah.
And I know, Josh, you have a little bit of trouble in the middle of the week. I don't wanna,
I'm free on the 12th.
perfect, I don't wanna exclude you.
I'm waste free.
Retired.
I didn't know if you're going on an early spring break trip or something.
No, sorry.
So, March 12th, 6 o'clock.
What time is that?
6, does that work or later?
I have my taxes done until about 6:30 that night, so. You can start without me. I mean, I can,
Will we have the information ahead of time too? Or
Why don't we do 7 just to make?
is 7, I don't know who's all here from staff too, so I don't want to like hang out forever.
Courtney, are you able to answer for what Charlene's schedule's like that day?
She did not share that. She just shared that she was available that evening.
Jeez, Ron,
went home.
6:30?
do you want to do 6:30, Ron?
Yeah, go ahead and plan it. If I'm late, I'll come as soon as I can, so.
Okay. 6:30?
Yeah.
Alright. And then we'll need to do a special meeting between March 25th and 28th to do the virtual interviews. So wide open. And what your guys' availability, I'm pulling up my calendar now.
Available, unless I can call in for the virtual ones, I assume I can as well, then I'm fine, but I'll be out of state that week.
Okay. Is there
Virtual works for me.
any date that doesn't work for anybody? I'm guessing were these in the evening the last time or,
I think so.
okay, I'm just making sure.
Did we do some on a Saturday?
Tuesday or Wednesday, if we can.
Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah,
Any- What time zone are you in?
Yeah.
That's right.
Or the 24th, whatever, I don't care.
What time zone are you in?
This one, I think. Most likely this one. For now.
What date are you looking at? One of them?
The 25th or the 26th?
25th through the 28th?
Just do Wednesday night. Can we do that again or?
Was there, did you say there was a time that did not work for you?
No, I'm.
Oh, okay.
I'm-
He'll be able to do virtual,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
Works for me. 26.
26, like 6 o'clock? Jackie, that good?
I think so, yeah.
March.
And that'll be here and then they're virtual, correct?
The actual interviews, finalist interviews, is that what it is?
The virtual interviews, so finalist in person, we'd be looking at March 31st through April 4th. And I will say I'm good any day other than Friday the 4th, because of course, like probably the day people would prefer would be the Friday, but
Well, the only thing is that, I think we did last year on a Saturday simply for the fact that it gave people time to get into town and we also had people freed up for the different committees, if I'm not mistaken. Was that correct, Jackie? Did we do that on a Saturday?
I know we did the final ones on a Saturday. I
That's
can't
what I'm
remember if
saying.
we did some earlier in the week though,
Did
with
we?
different panels.
Don't remember if we did or not. Can we check that out?
There was,
We did the one on a
Community.
Saturday where the community got to come and like ask their questions.
that was during the week.
Yeah, that
I had to
was.
coach the baseball, I had to coach a baseball game, so that's why I know.
I also had a conflict and it was late, so.
The council met on Saturday morning and did a closed session.
Maybe it was Friday.
Maybe it was a
Maybe it was Friday that we had all that stuff done that we did. We had to have all the people meet with everybody done.
And that following Saturday morning, we
Yeah,
met.
the next morning we did the final, right? Right, what is it, the 4th of April then?
And I am unavailable in the evening.
Are we gonna be doing the same process where we have a community?
Evening of the 4th is not great for me.
I'm unavailable the 3rd.
Second it is.
Doing a lot of Wednesdays, I mean.
Well, second.
April 2nd. Or in person,
Yeah.
And then would we do the community one? The first?
Well,
I don't know if that was on the schedule. I'm trying to find that.
I think it's pretty important that we have,
Possibly do a meet and greet without the panel questions, like.
I kind of like the fact that we had 2 or 3 different panels make recommendations to us. I thought that was a good process, but I don't know what the rest of you think that were involved with that.
For you.
No, the meet and greet also had questions.
Yes.
And that's the part.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Proposed.
But you still have the
multiple
panels.
panel
Yeah,
interviews.
multi-panel,
Mhm.
okay.
I don't see a need for either this time around.
Or what?
The meet and greet and the panel.
I've been contacted by several people who'd like to be involved.
Well, I remember it was an all-day thing. I mean, they came in the night before and then all day started at like I mean, I think one of the first panels met like at 8 o'clock or something like that. In the meantime, you know, the other 2 were on tours around the community and meeting with another panel. And I mean, it was all set up so that you just kind of rotated everybody through that process all day long. And, I thought it worked very well. I mean, Ben
That way
even
they're
said.
getting exposed.
Huh?
That way they're getting exposed.
Exactly, and well, and if you remember, Ben even said it was the best process he'd ever been through, so I do think we need to do that again.
And hold your hand with it.
Yeah. But we set up schedule, we had to have people who would take people on tours and stuff. I think we just have to have a day to pick and then they can come in the night before, whatever the case is, and if you wanted, what was it again, April 2nd?
What we're talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
April 2nd.
Good with me.
April 2nd then, yay.
During the daytime, right?
Yes, it would be.
No, I gotta look.
Guessing we'd be taking the day off, right?
Call it a day off.
Well, I mean,
What time would we
a
be?
shift in brain.
Okay.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It
This
probably
is,
depends
this is
on-
Courtney
oh, okay.
here. I don't. It's a council process. We're right now just trying to land dates to get them on the calendar. If you know that there are dates that will not work, please provide those and more will be coming on the process. We're just trying to get dates on the calendar.
Right, but
The length of time will be determined by how many panelists, right?
Correct.
3 last time. But
so I mean, for me to say I'm available or not, I need to know a time, because I have a job, so,
well, it was, if I remember right, for us, it was at least half a day for sure, I think, in council, because we kind of scheduled that. They rotated through and we had meetings and maybe Courtney, maybe you can dig up the time schedule on that previous one and let us look at that.
Yes, it was an all-day event, starting with breakfast at the library. And then every hour they had something scheduled. We rotated tours and 3 panel interviews. It was the entire day. They stayed the night. Council met the following Saturday. I will get you exact times.
Okay. I forgot the breakfast at the library.
We want to say tentative April 2nd then for now?
Yeah.
Good, Jackie. Anything else that we need to do on that? Okay. Item D is discussion regarding Vision 2030. I know you had some information with like Ryan and OPN that you wanted to share.
Yeah, I mean, they went over and looked at the building following your direction a week ago. And they were given the 19 individuals that we think would potentially office there. They were actually told that the police and fire would then expand into the space here temporarily of the people that vacated it. And you know, they're gonna get us some numbers. I don't know that from those conversations that we have anything to react to until they get us some numbers, but
A timeline on that.
I don't. I don't know when they plan to have that to us, but I will find out.
say not to lean on them, but leaning on them. It'd be great if we have it back by the next council meeting. They're pretty high level problems at this point that hopefully they can pull that together for us.
Certainly. One of the things I wanted to bring up in regards to that, Amanda Swanzinger and I had a conversation today and think that it would be beneficial as we talk about what we do with the space and regions, that we have almost like a town hall type meeting with kind of stakeholders in regards to the square with us and Main Street, the chamber, to talk about what some of those impacts would be. I know that was kind of brought up in our last meeting. So chew on that as well, on when we would want to maybe sit down with all of them to kind of discuss that building. And that is going to be a temporary home for City Hall, a permanent home, what all we could do. So I just wanted to kind of make everybody aware that, you know, they're watching, they're listening, they want to come to the table and talk with us as well, so.
Erica Roberts reached out after our last meeting with same concern. As director of Main Street, she has some responsibility to report back to Main Street on development and economic vitality of the Main Street area. As they were designated as downtown Main Street, they have a responsibility for bringing a certain value of increase each year. And so she would like to come to the table and just have a conversation with us and understand our plans for the future, so.
Date or anything like that right now, but wanted you guys to have that so that as we go down the process, that something that's been asked of us to sit down with those stakeholders, so.
I think we need to get numbers from OPN and
Mhm.
let's first get our plan together before we go out and start having some of those conversations, so.
Don't disagree with that either. The only other thing I would just say is, folks, that with information that we were given tonight on Michael Maloney about the availability of some revenue from local option sales tax, it really is significantly less than what we kind of talked about in the past. And so I think part of the discussion somewhere down the road needs to be, if that is our option down the road, as to what we do, and that dictates a lot of where we go with different things. My point is that if a GO bond is on the table ever, we probably need to figure that out as well about our whole plan, but we have to get our numbers first, so I understand that. I'm just saying, from somewhere down the road here, we don't want to be down to May, June, or July and trying to say we need to do a GO bond. That's my point. So let's keep in mind what our schedule is here. We're now going to be into the second meeting in February, and we have to be very cognizant of our time frames depending on what we're going to do. So let's just keep that in mind as we move forward.
Ask them think maybe be appropriate for the future going on, and we should be touching base on this every meeting as we go. Even if it's just quick like this that says, hey, here's what we're waiting for, what are the next steps, but there should not be a meeting that goes forward right now, in my opinion, that we don't do this. We're waiting for numbers from Ryan. Great. It's a brief other discussion. Things are on track. Perfect. Next meeting will probably be a heavier discussion, I would imagine, because we should have numbers. To your point, Richardson, we don't want to lose track of time here.
Yeah, just have it on the agenda as well. It's just.
At some point, we need to have a conversation about our funding options and agree on how much each of us are comfortable with taking on. And as a tax levy increase, and that will dictate which direction we are going. We all have our comfort level in what debt we take on and for how long, right? That needs to be a conversation at some point in the future.
Well, I think to your point too, and to Josh's point, I think we get the numbers from OPN, it gives us a real starting place, and then we do need Mike Maloney He's great. Sometimes I think we get lost in the weeds with all the things he talks about, and I think it's just an easy discussion about, you know, this is one option, this is one option, but the other thing we gotta keep in mind too is that that local option sales tax, as Jackie pointed out, is gonna give us that slide. Some of that is used for internal things already that we use, and so that may not be available, and some of the assumptions that was made, that I made earlier too, and I apologize for that, were based on some faulty information, so I don't wanna step us back, I don't wanna set us back, but I think we just, and to your point, I think we do need to figure out where we're going, and that's probably a discussion, maybe 2 meetings down the road.
Needs to happen soon because.
Yeah, again, you gotta do it soon.
We just tell Michael Maloney to talk to us like we're 5.
You know what? That's probably exactly what we need to do. Am I the only one that thinks that though? I don't, kind of wondering.
If there is nothing else, I would take a first and second motion to adjourn. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ron, you're an A, right?
Like, they love you.